think we got everybody. Is Derek here?
Haven't heard, dear.
Kathy Sue, can you get a hold of him?
On over YouTube now.
Oh, he jumped in.
Have we got him?
Yep, he's
Yes.
in that. He's in the attendees
As an
list.
attendee. He's an
Okay.
attendee right now.
Just elevate him. There we go. Welcome. All right. I call to order the September 17th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Commissioner Steve Frisbee,
Present.
Commissioner Derek King,
Present.
Commissioner Tommy Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Gary Tompkins,
Present.
Commissioner Kathy Sue Vetty,
Here.
Commissioner Rochelle Hatcher,
Present.
Commissioner Jake Smith.
Present.
We have quorum.
Have a moment of silence and Commissioner Hatcher is going to offer a special.
Thank you. Thank you. It is with heartfelt sadness that I do tonight share with the members of the boards as I have, and with our Wayne County board members, the loss and the passing of Wayne County Sheriff Corporal Bryant Searcy. Corporal Searcy was 50 years old and was killed in the line of duty. He leaves behind a daughter and a wife, his wife and a daughter. And I thought that if we could join our brethren to the east of us, Wayne County Commissioners tonight as well, and giving our moment of silence to him, his family, and to the Wayne County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vetty, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
One
under
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible, and liberty for justice and all.
peace and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot of lag in that tonight.
Yeah.
Approval of agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the September 17th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular session agenda as presented?
Hatcher, so moved.
Support Vetty.
Hatcher and Miller. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Petty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah.
Commissioner Frisbee.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Commissioners September 3rd, 2020 regular session as presented?
So moved, Tompkins.
Support Vetty.
Tompkins and Betty. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. The next item on agenda is citizens' time. During citizens' time, the board chair shall recognize any person wishing to address the board. The person recognized by the chair shall call in and state his or her name and community of residence. A person may address the board only once on the same matter during each period set aside for citizens' time on the agenda and only on matters that are relevant to county government. The chair shall control the length of time each person should be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. and shall not allow negative personal comments. Please mute your TV or your computer when calling in, as the background sound will generate feedback. Please note there's an approximately 30-second delay between the live meeting and the YouTube feed. Is there anyone that would like to address their commissioners? Patrick, how far behind of a lag do we have tonight?
Nearly 30 seconds. It's right
Okay.
under 30 seconds.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to address their commissioners? Is there anyone that would like to address their commissioners? There's nobody in the queue, correct, Patrick?
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody in the queue?
No, there's no one in the queue.
Okay. We'll move on. Elected or appointed county officials' comments. Is there anybody who would like to address this? Lucy Blair.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to just let you know on behalf of the Census Committee that it is the last couple weeks of the census, about 2 weeks. And we just want to remind everyone that they should fill out their census if they haven't already. We've been going to farmers markets across the county. We've been in Battle Creek a couple times. We were in Albion and Homer, and in a lot of places we were able to encourage folks to fill it out if they haven't already. We had computers ready and we're able to help them with that. And then also, we were just able to promote it, we have some swag, and encourage people that way. So we've been really busy. If you can remind your constituents to fill out their census, that's really good. We know how important it is for local government funding. And that's it. It's kind of crazy. We have a couple more weeks, but this has been a long process. And we've been just kind of going with it as COVID has happened. And so it's just been really, really nice to see that we do have, our averages are the same, matching the state, and we're doing really well. We're matching our 2010 numbers as well. So I do think that we did a good job getting an accurate count this year. But definitely, if you can in the last couple of weeks, remind your constituents, that would be great. And we can answer any questions that you have. Thanks.
Thanks, Lucy. Anybody else? All right, we'll move along. Are there any, no special order of business tonight? Consent agenda, we have 2 items on it. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as described?
So moved.
Miller and Smith. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Petty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
You're muted, Rochelle.
Yes, please. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Any special committee, workshop, or board reports?
If I may, Chair.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. I got actually 3 of them this evening. First and foremost, the Senior Millage Allocation Committee met on September 4th. We approved the 2021 budget recommendation as presented to us, as well as we approved the 4 senior strategic project funding recommendations that we'll be seeing forthcoming to us here shortly. Out of 14 submissions, we settled on 4 overall, and all were approved by the board. I just want to take an opportunity to certainly thank Brad Wilcox, who was instrumental in establishing the performance standards, as well as participating in the subcommittee, as well as Jen Bamba, Diane Peters, Tom Hunsdorfer, Yvonne Chapman, and of course, Helen Guzzo and Kate Turner, and myself being included in that. So it was a lot of hours of work, and we feel very comfortable where we're at, and we'll be seeing that very shortly come before us. Also, too, at the meeting, we approved the Marion Birch contract amendment to allow for the vegetable repairs, and also the Albion Homer United Way food box distribution mini grant request in the amount of $5,000. At the Homer Lake Management Board meeting on September 8th, Blake Mallory from PLM Lake and Land Management was on hand to provide a year in review treatment report. There were 4 treatments that were applied this year, which is an all-time high on the lake, all staying within the budgeted constraints in which we had applied to him. Great job, certainly, by Blake in order to do that. This was a very challenging year for any lakes due to the excessive heat and all the other challenges. So a great job by him, as well as the board also reviewed the updated 2020 budget. And we approved to put an additional $3,000 to reduce the debt, with a target to eliminate the debt entirely by 2021, which is really nice because the debt has essentially been cut by 2/3 in 3 years. And a great job by the board in terms of really focusing on eliminating that debt as quickly as possible. And then finally, the Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health Substance Abuse Policy Oversight Board met on September 14th, where we approved the 2021 fiscal year PA2 budget. With special attention, though, that will continue to be made, obviously, on the, we'll talk about later, on the Calhoun County aspect of the PA2, to make sure that the spending is in line with the revenues by 2022, to ensure that our programs that we're able to provide will continue to be able to be sustainable in the near future and beyond. So just something to keep in mind there. Also, too, we had heard a report on the 2020 SINAR report, which those of you that may or may not know what that is, that's in which retailers are evaluated whether they sell tobacco to minors. Essentially, the people come in, if you will, decoys to come in and see if the retailers are meeting the standards. And this year, 29 total retailers in the region were identified, and 4 were found to be non-compliant, which that results in an 86% compliancy rate. However, that's the lowest it's been in 4 years, and somewhat of a cause of concern, in which we discussed. Obviously, they've indicated that COVID-19 had created challenges to the on-site education of these retailers, but a greater emphasis will be placed going forward to ensure, because one of the things we have to ensure that we have at least 80% compliance with the federal government to ensure that we receive the necessary funds. So just something to take in mind. And so it was a pretty busy couple of weeks relative to special committees. So that is my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on. We'll turn it over to Kelly Scott for new business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For my report, I'll highlight a few items within our administrator's update that will come out tonight. A special thanks to Lucy Blair for her leadership on these reports. It's very helpful to me, for sure, to compile all of the information. So this past week, the county staff, specifically within the county building, participated in Summit Points campaign related to September being Suicide Awareness Month. And they're doing a chalk campaign, so chalk the sidewalk. And really the hope is that if people are walking down the street and just see positive messages about, the importance of human life and how much we care about everyone as individuals, especially those that are struggling with mental health issues, which are elevated right now due to the COVID pandemic. So I just want to thank the county staff that were able to take part in that. They used their lunch hour at the county building to put some lovely messages on our sidewalks around the county building. Also, some reports from boards and committees that I'm involved with. Let's see, the BC CalCal Inland Port Development Corporation Board of Directors met on September 9th. And we heard updates from Director Adam Reed about the value of using the foreign or the inland port foreign trade zone to help companies deal with tariffs. And so there are definitely some activities going on in that area. We heard about those initiatives. The MMSA, Michigan Municipal Services Authority Executive Committee met on September 10th. I continue to chair that board and committee through the end of this month, and then to pass the baton to someone else and still remain on the board. We still have an interim CEO, Shay Charles, and he gave us updates on one of our newest initiatives, which we have contracted with the City of Flint and the Department of Treasury to help with some financial issues with the City of Flint. We also continue to be the contract holder for the county and a city related to financial management systems. And then just a note that the LCSA, Local Community Stabilization Act, talks about personal property tax replacement for local governments. That legislation is in the process of being amended. And then we also approved the budget for next year. There has been a series since March that the State Department of Treasury has offered for local government leaders that gives us valuable information about COVID-19 financial resources. There was another webinar on September 8th, and these are being jointly hosted by associations, including Michigan Municipal League and Michigan Association of Counties. That's helpful just to make sure we're not missing any potential sources of funding. The MEDA, Marshall Area Economic Development Alliance Board, met on September 15th. We, of course, have a new CEO, Jim Durian, I reported last time. We heard staff updates from them, including just his vision of continuing with chamber-related services, some local grant funding that MEDA is offering to help businesses stay afloat during the pandemic. And then in Marshall, there's still plans to have a social district for the restaurants and retailers planned. The Calhoun County Visitors Bureau, CVB Board, met this past Tuesday, September 15. Commissioner Vetty is the chair of that board. We heard updates from our CEO, Linda Freitler, on the overall impact, financial impact of COVID on local tourism and events. Definitely multi-million-dollar impact due to the inability to bring a lot of events, particularly to Kellogg Arena in Battle Creek. The good news is that the hotel occupancy countywide, it has rebounded for the most part, even with McCamley Hotel in Battle Creek continuing to struggle. And we also supported Battle Creek's new proposed hotel ordinance that you may have heard about in the news. We have established a new internal committee that is trying to address issues related to diversity, equity, and inclusion within county government. And we're starting with developing a workplace climate survey that we hope to send out to our employees in the next month just to get those conversations started. We also had on September 10, Chair Frisbee and I attended our city county meeting, which we had previously been holding quarterly. We haven't met yet this year until last week. We did a Zoom meeting. We meet with city managers and mayors, village manager from Homer, and really we just exchange best practices. We talk about our current challenges and then any community projects and initiatives, and talk about whether we can share certain services going forward. Finally, I just want to say happy anniversary to our county's public defender office. This beginning of September marked a full year of operation for our new public defender's office. Our public defender, Dave Macklett, is doing a wonderful job with his leadership. And of course, they have had to adapt to mostly virtual processes to support the courts during this pandemic. So very excited that it's been a full year already and they continue to evolve. I also want to mention just a few of the things that are in the lineup for the October Board of Commissioners meetings, which I anticipate to continue to be held virtually. The Water Resources Commissioner, Fred Heaton, will be presenting his annual report during October. There are several bid award items from purchasing, some of which were delayed due to COVID. A lot of them relate to road department bids. The Senior Millage Allocation Committee will be bringing forth some of their bid awards. And then we also will need to have some public hearings and a resolution related to another source of COVID funding, and that comes from the CDBG portion of the CARES Act that it's about $440,000 allocated to the county, and it allows us to offset any expenditures we've had really for this whole calendar year related to COVID, but only those that we can't cover with other sources. And then this one is unique in that it also allows us to pass through the funding to other local governments and or nonprofit partners. So one of the things that we're considering, of course, we want to cover our own expenditures, but to the extent that we have funding that we don't think we can use, because we have, honestly, we have a lot of funding sources to cover our COVID expenses. We're considering allocating some of that toward a big initiative specifically within Battle Creek to make sure that our homeless population can be safely sheltered in a way that's distant. They're not out mingling with the community. And some of the current homeless shelter situations are really not adequate to even do that. And they're definitely not the best long-term solution to address the issue of homelessness. So that's more than just sheltering. Really, we need to make sure there are programs in place, try to get to the root cause of why the people are homeless and prevent that in the future. So we may need to act relatively quickly to allocate some of those funds, but there will be a series of public hearings required and a resolution to get the funding for that. I just want to mention that our county leadership team, we call it our internal response team, met last week. We typically meet weekly unless the meeting's canceled. And kind of the latest issues are we have had several cases of employees within the county testing positive for COVID. I think we're up to 11, maybe 12 as of today, spread throughout departments. And we've had a lot of employees that have had to use our emergency leave policy to either take care of relatives who had COVID or they're needing to quarantine or be isolated. So we're not immune as an employer to dealing with all of the HR issues. Marshambo's been really busy, and along with our health department, and trying to make sure we're following our own preparedness plans as far as cleaning and sanitizing. And one of the things we did as of last week is we put in place a new employee notification system where we heard from our department heads that employees really want to know when there's an employee that tests positive. We're not going to identify the person. We're not going to reveal any medical information, but at least if you work in a building where someone tests positive, you will have that information. For example, today we had a positive case within the road department. So that information will go out to all employees, just so that they feel like we're being more transparent and allowing them to take any extra precautions that they feel necessary. I think that is it for my report. So with that, we can move into new business. We only have 4 items tonight. The first one is 12B1. It's on page 20 if you're following along on the PDF document. This one was submitted by our Corporation Counsel, Jim Dyer, on behalf of our Community Development Department. And it's a renewal of a long-standing lease of Ardmore Park, which is in Bedford Township. And this was a property that the Calhoun County Road Commission owned and was using, I guess, as a sort of as a drainage property, was not deemed the best use. The township, because it was within residential area, wanted to create a community park. And the lease that we're proposing is, it's not a cost to the county, it's not a revenue to the county, but it will allow the township to make sure that they're covered and can get insurance on the property and can make any improvements to the park. Of course, we have new parks funding from the voter approved millage that will start being allocated next year to municipalities, including Bedford Township. And so just in order to make sure the liability pieces and the ownership pieces are in place, Jim Dyer is recommending, and the township has already approved, a 25-year renewal of this lease, which I think have been in place since all the way back to 1965. And I'm going to ask Jim if you want to make any remarks before we get a motion.
I think you covered it quite well, Kelly. The only thing that I might add is that this actually is not a new lease. It's this area has been used by the park as a park by Bedford Township since 1965 by agreement with the County Road Commission. And the lease actually expired after a period of time. And the township has sought its renewal largely because they'd like to upgrade the existing equipment that's there, and will require them to meet a safety standard that we would have to meet if we were operating it, and we'd be protected fairly. We'd be substantially protected by that requirement in the lease to keep that equipment in good shape and repair so no one's injured.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the lease of Ardmore Park with the Charter Township of Bedford as submitted?
So moved, Miller.
Support Betty.
Miller and Vetty. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Fetty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item 12B2 starts on page 28 of our PDF package. And this is year-end final budget amendments for the health department submitted by our Deputy Controller Megan Banning, who's with us tonight to answer any questions. And it's pretty simple, similar to how we do a countywide year-end budget amendment in December, mainly because our audited financial statements include budget to actual schedules and then require us to explain variances. We want to make sure that our budget accurately reflects, to the best of our knowledge, how we'll end the year. So that's in policy 275, that the Board of Commissioners maintains control over countywide budgets. Bottom line for the health department is that we don't expect this to impact their budgeted use of fund balance. Also, we don't expect it to impact the county's general fund as far as the amount that we appropriate to the health department. But basically, there are 3 included in here. One is you can see a reduction in program activity across several departments, mainly due to COVID. Those total about 150,000. So there's corresponding reductions in revenue and expenditures related to those areas. And then in one place, environmental health, where we're tracking the COVID response costs from the health department, there's actually increase of about 85,000. Again, we expect the increased COVID costs to be covered by various local, state, and federal funding. And then finally, there's an adjustment at the end just to book some in-kind costs related to vaccinations. So that's it. And if you have any questions, Megan is the expert on more detail.
Megan, did you want to speak?
I think Kelly covered it quite clearly, but thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 20 Health Department budget amendments as submitted?
So moved, Betty.
Support Hatcher.
Betty and Hatcher. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll. Did someone have a
Commissioner
question?
Hatcher,
I'm sorry, did someone have I'm sorry, did someone have a question, Steve? I mean, Chair?
I thought I heard somebody jumping in there. Okay, go ahead and take the roll.
Okay. Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item 12B3 is on page 31. This is the item that Commissioner Tompkins mentioned during his boarding committee update report, the PA2 alcohol tax budget for fiscal year 2021 that starts October 1st. So the recommended budget that was approved by the Substance Use Disorder Oversight Policy Board this past Monday, and representatives for the county include Commissioners Tompkins and Betty. That amount was $393,699 in expenditures. So of that, about $310,000 is being recommended directly to the county to support our specialty courts that deal with cases related to substance use disorders. So sobriety court, drug court, veterans court. Another $25,000 of that is being recommended to go to Summit Point for their involvement in providing those services within our juvenile home. One thing I might mention, two things I might mention, you'll see the amount for Summit Point Jail zeroed out. And that's just because SWMBA was able to identify different funding through opioid related sources to pay for that. So we're not recommending to end those services within the jail, just fortunately being able to find other sources of funding because we have to continue to reduce our PA2 budget to match the reduction in revenue. And then just in general, the strategy this year was to reduce the proposals that we received by 20%. And because they were able to find additional funding for the jail services, you know, you can see not all of them had to be reduced, but in general, we're continuing to tell our providers that we have to get our baseline budget annually in line with approximately $350,000 in revenue, which is going to be the ongoing expectation for the county collects. We get allocated from the state all of the liquor tax that is actually collected within our county. It's possible that that will be up for next year, but in general, that's the amount that has been pretty steady for a few years. And then half of it we allocate to SWMBA to turn around and have these contracts with our providers. And the other half just really remains with the county general fund for our operations. So that would be our recommendation. And also, as Commissioner Tompkins reported, their oversight policy board did approve the same budget on Monday.
Can I have a motion to approve the PA2 budget for fiscal year 2021 as submitted?
So move Tompkins.
Support Miller.
Tompkins and Miller. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Smith,
I believe I have enough of a perceived, if not a actual conflict of interest being an employee of SWMBA to abstain from this.
Okay.
Speak.
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Yes, please.
6 yes, 1 abstain.
Motion carries. Next is citizens' time, the same rules. Wait a minute, we have one more item. Calhoun County financials.
One more item. Yes, it does.
Sorry.
It does seem like we've been doing financial statements often, but every month at this time, we bring you the previous month year-to-date financials. And as you may have heard Megan sounds like she has a cold, and so I'm gonna not make her do this whole speech, but I'll try to summarize the financials for August. And this is county general funds, summary of special revenue funds, and then also the road department. It's on page 67. And I guess the highlights for August would be, we have started collecting property taxes, our biggest source of revenue. So the August revenues did exceed expenses. However, we will continue to see a negative bottom line, meaning year-to-date county expenditures on the general fund will be in excess of revenue. And this year, especially until we receive the CARES funding that we applied for to the tune of about 3.2 million, just to help cover our public health and public safety payroll for the month of March and April. Both revenues and expenditures, mainly due to COVID, are below the levels that we saw last year at the same time. We've been reporting that and incorporated that into the mid-year budget adjustment. In the property tax line item, it looks like we're down from last year, but really it has all to do with the timing variance of a year-end reversal that didn't happen last year on time. So last year's property tax revenues through August were inflated. We're actually not down in property taxes. That's one item that's really not been impacted by COVID. The big item that is on the revenue side has been impacted by COVID is the charges of services area, which we're down 837,000 from the previous year. Biggest portion of that is jail bed rental revenue, but there are also items that relate to the courts and almost every other department. I also want to note that we did pay out our hazard pay, $1,000 per employee for law enforcement and jail personnel, this with payroll, which actually today is payday. We are still getting that funding, or we either got it today or we're getting it next week, but it was paid out today to those eligible employees. And then on page 75, Megan has included a pretty good summary year to date of what the county's COVID expenses have been. So for the county proper, and these are really it's really the people outside of public health and public safety that have been reporting their COVID response expenses, about 830,000 that we still have not received reimbursement for. We are also, a reminder, we have funded the Joint Operations Center costs, including the quarantine isolation hotel that happened from April to June. That was about $500,000 for the Joint Operations Center costs. We do expect all of these to be reimbursed, but right now they're just shown as expenses on the county side. And then the road department financials are on page 73. Just a reminder what we've been reporting, and we incorporated into the mid-year budget adjustment. We are based on what I think it's the County Road Association or MDOT is reporting. We are expecting about 11% decline in TF revenues to the road department. And we have factored that into how we'll survive the rest of this year at the road department. So those would be my highlights, and I'll be happy to answer questions or forward the harder ones to Megan.
They have a motion to accept the Calhoun County August 2020 financials as submitted.
So moved, Betty.
Support Tompkins.
Betty and Tompkins, any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Frisbee,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
We have 7 yes.
Motion carries. Our next item is citizens' time. The same rules apply as during the first citizens' time. Please limit your time to 3 minutes and no negative personal comments. Please mute your TV or computer when calling in, as the background sound will generate feedback. Please note there's an approximately 30-second delay between the live meeting and the YouTube feed. Is there anyone that would like to address their commissioners? Is there anyone that would like to address their commissioners? Anyone that would like to address their commissioners? All right, we'll move on. Claims payable. Can I have a motion to approve the Calhoun County claims payable for August 28th, 2020 through September 10th, 2020 in the amount of $3,777,467.19 as presented?
So moved, Miller.
Do I have support?
I'm sorry.
Support Betty.
Support Hatcher. I'm sorry. I was muted, you guys. I'm sorry. Support Hatcher.
All right, Miller and Betty. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Betty,
Yes.
Hatcher,
Yes.
Please.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Frisbee.
Yes,
We have 7 yes.
motion carries. Any announcements?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hatcher.
Okay, I just wanted to announce that Hispanic Heritage Month actually it began September 15th. So it runs September 15th through October 15th. And I just think that it's a great time for us to learn more about diversity and experience the culture that comprises our country's Hispanic and Latino community. And also too, just to make a note, PBS during that time is running some outstanding, I would say, short movies and film festivals regarding the culture of our Hispanic brothers. And I think that it would just be something interesting for us to watch. So they have different movies that are streaming each evening. And one, if I could advise or, suggest any, recommend would be The World's a Stage. It's an excellent short film. So just wanted to just bring that up. And I'm sure that there will be more going on here in Calhoun County and in Battle Creek. I just have not received any information. So, we should all look for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other announcements? Commissioner time. We'll go back because I think I skipped it. Maybe not. I think it's missing.
It's missing, I think, Steve.
It is.
So
So
it would have been item 11 on our agenda.
when I printed it, didn't print with it, so. Yeah, wild. I got 2 11s on my printed one. I missed it.
That's my fault, sorry.
No, don't worry. I think it's the way I printed it. Any commissioners? I would just ask that we lay out what we need to do to be able, what needs to be in place for us to go back to live meetings. And I know that's kind of a difficult task to name, but I think if we all knew where we stood, it'd be good. I know almost all of us are itching to get back together, so, and do live meetings. So we just need to know what we need to, where we need to be.
Chair, may I ask a question, please?
Yes, you may.
Okay, I don't know how to raise my hand on all this, but I was just wondering how do we make that decision? Is that a decision that we will all make on our own, or is that going to be a decision that Kelly and maybe some of the county officials, Jim or so, will be, will that just be something we will all talk about?
To me, it's an administration decision because they have control of the building and policy that that's carried out. I think we as the policymakers need to understand exactly what we need. I have a couple of you that really have asked, can we go back? I'd be very supportive of it as long as it's breaking the rules. So
Is it possible that we may be able to go back without the public, but just in that, in that arena, and then still, airing things on YouTube as we are doing now? That way we can all kind of hear each other a little bit better and we're not muted and unmuted.
yeah, Jim or Kelly, can one of you take that?
Steve, can I say something?
Oh,
Yeah.
There's one thing that might be a factor that isn't a determining factor, but we're doing a complete rehaul of the production facilities in the new courtroom, and there's going to be new microphones, large monitors, tote board for voting, basically redoing the whole audio video system in there. That's scheduled to begin, I think, the 1st of November. So I'm not saying you have to wait till then, but one of our thoughts was maybe to kind of have the not a grand opening, but reintroduce everybody to the meetings using a whole new platform and system.
Okay.
Commissioners and, to kind of start off on a new system.
Yep.
And I'll go next and then see if Jim has any comments, but here's what I am tracking. The continuation of the extension of the executive order that allows for remote meetings is one factor. Not that we have to be remote, but right now that is expiring at the end of October. Right now, the executive order, I don't know if I know the number, 166 maybe, still limits indoor gathering for our region to 10. And so it is really not practical, possible, advisable, I'll let Jim weigh in on that, to meet in person and try to figure out how to limit the public from attending in a way that we could prevent gatherings of over 10 people in one room. And then I respect what you're saying, Commissioner Frisbee, that we're all itching to get together. That's really not a good public health reason to get together.
No.
That's part of the reason there's spiking cases is because people have COVID fatigue and they want to get together as they are. And it's happening in schools and on the college campuses and, local social gatherings. So right now, I am sort of targeting at least, get through this calendar year. I'm definitely willing to recommend, and it is the board's, but I'm definitely willing to recommend getting back together in person sooner if the conditions of our COVID case don't change, if the governor, for example, if we advance to phase 5 and the restrictions on gathering are eliminated, and if the advice from our local health department is contrary to that. I'll also say that typically any public that we have at the board meeting sometimes are among our vulnerable populations. So even though it would be great to be in person, it would not be the smartest from the public health standpoint. And that's just my thoughts right now. And Jim, I don't know if you have any comments.
I would agree with what you've said, Kelly. And if you just look right now in terms of the number of panelists we have, there are 16 people, which includes all the county commissioners, all 7 of the county commissioners, plus those that regularly attend the meeting. So we would be in a position we would have to even limit the number of staff that attend, and it's very impractical to have members of the public attending only by Zoom when there's a public meeting being conducted. To be honest, there's really, to my knowledge, there is no precedent for how that's handled under the Open Meetings Act, because the executive orders that permit us to meet by Zoom presume that we are taking steps to allow public access and viewing by Zoom. There really aren't any that says if you are meeting in public, how do you allow the public to meet to interact with you by Zoom? There aren't any real guidelines for that. So you run the risk of having an action determined to be in violation of the Open Meetings Act when you've met in that fashion. I don't know that we'd have any issues that would be sufficiently controversial before the end of the year that might create that situation, but you never know, we might.
I got
Mr.
some.
Miller? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rochelle had a really good idea. I mean, you go to restaurants, a lot of these restaurants are packed now. They're wearing masks to their tables. If we could find a way where we could meet into our chambers and, you know, have some way where the audience can come in on a computer the way they are now somehow. I think Rochelle had a really good idea there, if we could find a way to make it happen.
So restaurants have specific executive orders that allow for them to resume operations. The executive order that limits gatherings to 10 indoors specifically says that it includes business meetings within office spaces. And so it's not enough to just say, we'll bring in 40 people and make them wear masks. We literally cannot have more than 10 people in the same room in a gathering right now with the existing executive orders.
Right. We've, just as a point here, we've conducted 2 meetings. This is talking school board meetings in person, socially distanced with masks. For us specifically, limiting it to 10 people, which would include 7 board members and the superintendent, which limiting it to 10, and then also having, which we use Google Meets as our virtual device, if you will, our virtual program, and therefore the public and the administration, they chime in or have access through that, and we conduct public voice through that. It's not a perfect science, but it has worked the last 2 instances in which we've used it.
Yep.
Just as a reference point.
Commissioner Hatcher, do you have anything else?
I'm sorry, no, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Just anxious to see you guys all again.
Yeah, and I certainly didn't want to, create an environment where we're violating and just getting together to get together. But I think the face-to-face meetings have that's why they have them.
Yeah.
It's just so much of a nicer way to interact amongst each other. You get a better feel of what people are thinking and saying, and it's more difficult for some of us old folks, I guess, to do it on Zoom. And, so it's not that I'm advocating violating the law or executive orders. I hope we can get back as soon as we can. And it's a great discussion. I appreciate it.
I agree. Thank you. I did too. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Everyone have a good evening. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Thanks. I cannot figure this dumb thing out.
You still have it, Rochelle. She's gone.